Hello, good day. In today's lecture, we are going to talk about the price restrictions that might come from the government in the markets. This particular lecture is following the demand and supply lecture and market equilibrium lecture. In this lecture, we'll be talking about how the government intervention affects the markets. These government interventions generally come in the form of price ceilings and price floors, and the governments impose these kind of restrictions when one of the market participants suffers at the hand of the other market participants. Like, say, for example, if the producers charge exorbitant price for some products just because of their control of the market or just because of the strategic control of their inputs. In that instance, the government jumps in and it sets the maximum price that the producers can charge. Like, say, for example, the maximum price of the wheat and sugar that sometimes the government sets for the producers. They cannot charge more than that. Similarly, the landowners are not allowed to charge in some of the districts and some of the areas higher than certain rent. And similarly, they actually restrict the banks to impose ATM fees above certain levels. Similarly, in some of the situations, the suppliers suffer at the hand of the demanders. Like, say, for example, where the labor supplies its labor, they suffer when the producers pay them very low price in terms of their wage. That basically is a kind of a problem that the suppliers face. In that instance, the government jumps in and sets the minimum wage. And similarly, to support agriculturists and farmers, the government sets the support prices. Generally, these support prices are set to encourage agriculturists and farmers to produce certain kind of crop. Now, what happens when this price ceiling is imposed? Generally, contrary to its name, the ceiling does not just come above the equilibrium price. It comes below the equilibrium price because there is no point of setting the price above the equilibrium and the producers are charging very high price. In that particular instance, like say for example, if you look at this diagram, in this diagram, if you look at here, this is the equilibrium price, say for example. Now, this equilibrium price is being charged, it will be charged if the demand and supply are equal to each other. But the government comes into play and it sets a price which actually is below the equilibrium. Now, this price below the equilibrium creates a shortage in the market because this is a price at which there is a higher demand than the supply. What should happen with this shortage? This shortage creates queues. This shortage causes a lot of trouble to the people. They are not able to get what they want. They have to stand in the queues. They have to stand and wait actually in the queues for hours. That costs very high opportunity cost to them. Like say for example, if you are waiting for getting subsidized sugar or subsidized wheat and you have to spend 1 hour or 2 hours in the queue to get the sugar and you just get the discount of 20 rupees or 30 rupees on certain amount of the sugar or wheat. But the price that you pay in terms of the opportunity cost or the lost working opportunity is, say, for example, 500 rupees. That will be a very expensive thing to just do because you will not be able to just wait in the queue for that particular subsidy or that particular reduced prices. And that hence basically what happens. Generally, the producers actually charge this price, and but when they charge this price, there are many producers go out of the market, but the consumer generally pay the higher price than the equilibrium price, which actually could have been established when the demand and supply were actually interacting independently with each other. In this particular instance, what happens when there is a shortage and the people have to wait in queues, they have to spend or they have to pay non-pecuniary costs. They have to pay non-monetary costs in terms of their opportunity cost. They have to lose their time. They actually just substitute their activities, which actually can cause them economic loss. So generally, if the markets are left on their own, the price that will be reached to like will be this, say for example PE. But if the market is controlled by the government and this price ceiling is imposed, generally people pay a full price like this. This is a very high price than the equilibrium price. So this is what basically is something that actually causes economic inefficiency as well as it actually causes trouble to the people. Now, if you look at the total price, like say, for example, the full economic price is the price ceiling plus the price that have to pay between the difference between the price, the full price, and the ceiling price. This is the opportunity cost. This is the opportunity cost of waiting in the queues for hours to get subsidized rate or the price ceilings rate. Similarly, what happens, like say for example, if you think about the labor market, where the wages are set above the equilibrium wage. The equilibrium wage is say for example PE, but the government sets a equilibrium wage or that price floors above the equilibrium. Now, again, contrary to its name, the floors are not below the equilibrium price. They are generally above the equilibrium price because actually, if you want to protect the suppliers, you have to somehow actually have the price which is above the equilibrium. Now, what happens when the price is set above the equilibrium? There is a more supply than demand. What does the government do with this supply, the excess supply? The government has to buy this excess supply, which creates market efficiency. Like, say, for example, in many of the countries, the state owned enterprises have been destroyed by overemployment of the people. This overemployment has been caused because of the minimum wage laws. So, in turn, basically, like the both of the restrictions in the markets can cause a lot of trouble as far as the economic understanding is concerned. This is what basically happens, and this is what the true opportunity cost in both of the instances is a lot bigger. Like, say, for example, if the government sets up agriculture support prices, these agriculture support prices are set above the equilibrium. And when the producers are not basically able to get the demand for that particular price, the generally government has to come in again and they have to spend money to buy that excessive stocks. And buying that excessive stocks involve money. And that money again is paid through the exchequer. And this exchequer again like causes extra cost to the taxpayers. So in that way, according to classical economics, whenever the government comes into play, whenever the government intervenes into the market to protect the interest of the market participants, it creates economic inefficiencies. And these inefficiencies can cause a lot of trouble into the market in terms of the higher opportunity costs and in terms of the excessive burden of the state-owned enterprises. Thank you for joining us.